Okay, so actually my engine was crashed before. So the entire map was lost, so I had to recreate it again. So if you are watching the tutorial series, and maybe you will see a slight change of the map because I had to recreate it again, but there is no issue, right? I mean, it's just a placeholder map. You can create whatever map you want, but make sure to save all everything uh, continuously once you've done some sort of major change, because sometimes the engine can get crashed. So yeah, it will make you to lost the changes that you have been done. But anyway, so we left off in this function, right, which is clearing the spawned resources. So now uh, I need to randomize the spawn variable little bit, instances little bit, right? Because it seems like the stuffs that we have been spawned are exact same, right? So first let's create several trees. So as you remember, if you go into the RTS game starter kit, go for assets, resources, and trees. Here we have 4 types of trees, tree meshes, right, that we can use. So let's create certain instances first. So this should inherit the tree base, right? So if you forgot where it is, it's in the natural resources, trees, and the base folder. This is the parent class that we're going to use to spawn our trees. So tree base, I'll name this as pp tree 1, and let's add our tree 1 mesh. Let's try to place on the map. Okay, but the scale is a bit higher, so I'll reduce it 0.3, 0.3, and 0.3. Compile, save. Let's go to the map. Okay, it is there, but the tree is not in the correct position. Okay, let's try to move it a little bit down like this. Compile, save. Okay, we have our first tree. Likewise, let's create the second tree. Open full blueprint, and let's add tree 2. Let's try to place that as well. Okay, compile, save all, and let's create the third tree, which is, I think it should be a pine tree. Let's add pine tree 1, and I'll keep the default scale that we had before, which is 0.5, and let's try to place it. Okay, but the location is, well, should be fixed, something like that. Okay, but yeah, I think maybe we can later on, maybe we can figure out the proper scaling, but right now I think this will be fine. Let's duplicate it again, open that up, open for blueprint. This should be pine tree 2. I think the location is wrong. Try to move it a little bit down, and let's try to place it on the map. Okay, now we have these 4 types of trees, right? So we can use our spawner to spawn a random type of trees instead of just using this exact same type. So I'll clear the spawn resources first, and let's edit this blueprint. I'll close the rest of the stuff, and I think since we have 3 resource types, stones, fruits and trees, maybe it's better to create the instances, 3 different instances of this resource spawn as well. Then it will be easy for us to make the changes. So I'll move it to the base folder, and I'll create an instance of this resource spawner, which called BP tree spawner. Right? So this is responsible for spawning trees. And in the resource list array, now we can assign 4 of those tree types instead of directly feeding our tree base, right? So we can add tree 1, 2, 3 and 4 and compile it and save it. And instead of using this generic spawner, I'll remove that thing and I'll use this BP tree spawn, right? And see now you can see all the trees are there. So let's try to populate resources. Okay, now you can see instead of populating a one type of resource, now there is a certain level of randomization. So likewise you can populate whatever resource combination you want. But I think we need to be able to randomize the spawned assets as well, right? Because currently we have to repopulate the entire thing. But let's say if you find the correct combination of your tree variations, now you don't need to destroy this stuff. Let's say you just need to transform their locations. So it's better to have editor utility function to perform such transformations as well. Yeah, so you can do that by creating a new editor utility. So I'll name this as randomize resource transforms. So I'll make this thing as the third editor utility, because most of the time first we are going to spawn the resources, then we are going to randomize it, right? And then we are going to clear the resources if we don't need those stuff. Okay, so let's create a function. I'll call this as randomize resource transforms. So we have to get the spawn resources and we have to loop through each and every individual elements. So I'll promote this to a local variable called resource, and we can change the relative location of this specific actor. Set actor relative location, right? Because the transformation means, if you go to the spawn resources, transformation means it's a data type that encapsulates this location, rotation and scale, right? So we can actually manipulate these 3 stuffs in terms of transformation, right? So first I will change the locations, right? So maybe we can use this exact same function, right? Maybe like we can promote it to a function, so we don't need to paste these nodes again and again, right? We can maybe it should show create a function. Okay, this is the collapse to function, and I'll name this as get random location from spawnable area, right? Because this is the spawnable area, and this should be a pure function. Okay, we can use that function directly over here. Let's sweep and transport data depot as well. So let's plug that function over here like that, and compile and save. Now if you select the resource tree spawner, we have this randomize resource transform utility function. So now let's try to click it. So here you can see now it doesn't spawn new types of trees, it just randomize the locations of the pre-spawned trees, right? Which is the intended behavior we want, but still it's only transforming the location. So maybe let's try to transform the rotation as well. So here we can set actor relative rotation, right? So we need a random rotation as well. We can do that basically. Maybe I can improve this function further, right? Or maybe like for now I can simply add a very simple randomization to the rotation by getting the actor rotation, and maybe yeah, maybe I can split these pins. Alright, so this is the default rotation, so I don't need to use this thing. I can simply use random floating range. So obviously the rotation will be in between these two values, and can plug that over here. So let's try to manipulate again. So here you can see now the random rotation has been applied as well, right? The elements has been rotated. Okay, and the next thing we can manipulate is the relative scale. So let's set actor relative. Yeah, maybe let's set actor scale 3, right? So initially we have scale, so get actor scale 3D, and plus, or maybe we can multiply it by a random float value. Maybe the scaling range we can maybe like 0.8 minimum and 1.2 maximum, and we can make it as the new scale 3D. Okay, so let's try to randomize. So here you can see, I don't know whether you see the difference or not, but the scaling has been applied, right? So just for the demonstration purposes, I will make this range much larger, so you will see the scaling is very, see, the scaling is extremely big now, but you can see that both of these, all of these location, rotation and scale transformations are applied. So let's make it back to the correct value. Okay, now you can see everything is everything works pretty much fine, and yeah, I think that's what I wanted to cover, but this has one problem as well. I don't know how many of you noticed that. It's like this. Let's say if you place your resource spawner, here are my spawners. Okay, here. So if you place your resource spawner this sort of area, like there is a slope, and try to spawn it, it's not correct, right? I mean, it's spawning, but some trees are floating, right? Well, this happened because of the spawning range that we have defined, right? Because it is very small and it is not sensitive for the c-axis, because we have a very small range of c value over here. So what we can do, we can little bit increase this c value in our parent resource spawner. Maybe I will make it as 500. It's too much, I guess. Maybe 200. Okay, I think that's fine, right? So now I have to keep it in the ground. This keep it in the ground, plus it should cover the slope as well, something like this. And if I try to repopulate again, yes, it populates, and some places it works, some places it populates in the correct way, but in some locations still the spawning is floating, spawnable resources are floating. Well, this happened because this populating resource function which we used over here is not sensitive for the slope of the landscape, right? So it is just getting a random location from this box extent. So as a result, it will just spawn the elements in the random location, right? See, here you can see even some trees can go and spawn inside the map as well, right? Which is not quite correct, quite accurate, and some trees can be floating like this. So we need to sense, or we need to check the landscape first before spawning our elements, right? In that way actually we can accurately spawn our resources. So I think maybe we can look into that in the next tutorial, otherwise this will be long. Yeah, in the next tutorial we'll see how we can do that.